I don't think I've ever felt anything like this before. It's like this wild, chaotic love that I can't seem to handle or even make sense of. I've lost myself so much in his world that I barely know where I stand anymore. Half the time, I don't even feel grounded, like I'm floating somewhere I can't place. I'm not sure who'll ever read this, but I'm letting my fingers do the talking here. I've got a full-time job, but I feel like I'm falling apart in other ways. Sometimes, I'll just sit in my car, staring out the window, watching the world move on without me. Everyone else seems to be living their lives, and I'm stuck. I'm not even sure I've ever known what normal is, or if I'd recognize it if I did. Deep down, I think I've always felt that the chaos inside me is mirrored outside, in the things I can't control about my day-to-day life. I'm a mess. Scared and troubled, and I know it. I finalized my divorce back in November after a long, grueling process that dragged on for over 2 years. I don't regret it, even though I know now that my ex-husband might have been the only thing keeping me from completely losing myself. I'll admit it, I was selfish during our marriage. Needy, unpredictable, and downright unhinged at times. But it's not like he was perfect either. He came from a totally different world than I did. He had that stable, picture-perfect family life, even though his dad passed away a year ago. Meanwhile, I grew up in the middle of chaos, addicts all around me, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, you name it. And with that came trauma. Things I experienced and witnessed that no kid should ever have to endure. I have 2 kids of my own now, and I've worked hard to shield them from the kind of life I grew up in. But I'm far from a good mother. Since their dad moved out, I've been distant, constantly busy with work or glued to a screen, whether it's my computer, social media, or texting. Even when I'm with them, I'm not really present, and I'm ashamed of that. Like right now, they're running around upstairs while I'm here typing this. And their rooms? They're bare because I made the choice to leave their dad and rip them out of the only stable life they knew. Why? Because I wasn't happy. It was all about me. And now, here we are, crammed into this apartment that smells like stale food. Those empty rooms are the result of my actions. I cheated on their dad, multiple times. One lie led to another until it all spiraled out of control. I even accused him of cheating, which I think a lot of cheaters do out of guilt. Except I didn't feel guilt. I convinced myself he deserved it. He ignored me for most of our marriage, turned me down when I wanted intimacy or even just time together. Hey, the kids are at school, let's take a walk, I'd suggest. No. How about a date night? We don't have the money for that. We don't need money to spend time together. I'm tired. I just want to chill, he'd say, before retreating to the basement and shutting himself off from the rest of us. Looking back, I know he was dealing with depression. And then came the blow of finding out I'd cheated on him, which he admitted later he never truly got over, no matter how much he tried. Even when we were intimate, it was awful. He had these fantasies that made me feel trapped. I hated every second of it. He'd put me in cages, tell me to bark like a dog, or crawl around on all fours. He even wanted me to piss on the floor and eat out of a bowl. Sometimes he'd leash me up and walk me around the room like I was his pet. It always ended the same way, me chained to the wall while he used a vibrator to make me climax or climbed on top of me for his own release. And now? I watch porn and hate myself afterward. I hate the people in those videos too, because sometimes they look like they're actually making love. No one's ever made love to me. They fuck me like I'm disposable. And then they leave. I didn't know about his fetish when we first got together. He never mentioned it before the wedding. Over the years, though, it started to come out in bits and pieces, small confessions here and there, until, by year 7 of our marriage, it had grown into something much bigger than I could handle. The truth is, I went along with it. I even encouraged it, though every fiber of my being rebelled against it. I hated it. But I was desperate for attention, for some kind of connection. I kept feeding a fire I desperately wanted to extinguish, all for the sake of feeling close to him. Our basement turned into his personal chamber of horrors, and it still haunts me. The stains, the smells, the echoes of our fights, everything is frozen there, untouched and unmoved. Sometimes, I want to go down there and scream until the walls shatter, spilling out all the pain and anger I've been choking down. I want the floor to flood with images of my stepfather, his face when I was just a little girl, abusing my body, breaking my spirit, until DCFS finally stepped in when the bruises became too obvious to ignore. I want to punch through every window in that basement, watch the glass shatter into a million pieces, my fists bleeding until they match the rage inside me. If I could cast a spell to curse everyone who's ever damaged me, I'd do it. But here I am, stuck, dragging all this baggage around while struggling to figure out how to be a functioning adult in this world. I don't feel confident. Inside I feel ugly, ruined. And the internet doesn't make it better. I've posted on those "Are we dating the same guy?" groups on Facebook, trying to figure out if my boyfriend's seeing other women. The responses are always the same, anonymous comments claiming they're dating him too, but no details, no proof. Just enough to hurt me. I want to tell those women, those faceless, laughing, anonymous, to take a hot iron and shove it somewhere painful. But that would only add fuel to the fire, wouldn't it? One of my affairs was with my therapist. I know how it sounds. I was vulnerable, and he took advantage of that. It started in 2022 when he suggested sex therapy because of my bipolar disorder and hypersexuality. He framed it as a way to give me a safe outlet. He said he was struggling, too. His girlfriend had recently left him, and he was heartbroken. Before it even started, I'd written him a letter, confessing that I had romantic feelings for him. I was honest. I told him it was just transference, that it wasn't real, but I thought maybe he felt something for me too. For nearly 2 years, I stayed under his control, convinced I needed him. Then, one night, he forced himself on me. I told him I didn't feel well, that I wasn't in the mood. He laughed. You're hypersexual. Of course you want it, he said, and then he didn't give me a choice. He climbed on top of me, moving his body against mine until he was done. I just lay there, tears streaming, unable to fight back or even process what had just happened. I ended up pregnant. I didn't even have time to process it before the abortion. I hadn't missed a period yet, and it was already over. He named the baby after himself, called it Junior, and casually said, "Sorry you're going through this." Like it was nothing. I don't think I've ever fully grieved that baby. Maybe that's why I struggle to connect with my 2 kids now. Or maybe it's because I've never really processed the end of my marriage. I don't think I miss my ex-husband, but I've never cried about him leaving. Until now. As I type this, I'm sobbing, the tears falling hot and fast, leaving red blotches on my cheeks. They sting, and it's like they're demanding to be noticed, but I know no one will say anything. At best, people will politely pretend not to notice. And honestly, that's fine. I'm not writing this for sympathy. I'm not looking for anyone's approval or pity. I guess I just need to get these thoughts out of my head before they suffocate me. The truth is, I'm lonely. I don't have real friends. My phone almost never rings. Every now and then, I'll get a Facebook message or a text from some guy asking how I'm doing. They don't care, not really. They probably just want to sleep with me. It doesn't take much, 2 breasts and a warm body, and they're interested. Hell, some men would probably go for a watermelon if it didn't talk back. And these words? They're dead now. Just like everything else. The tears fall hot and fast, hitting my cheeks like tiny bullets. They sting, leaving behind red, splotchy reminders of everything I'm feeling, as if daring someone to notice. But no one ever does. At best, people might politely ignore the obvious. Worst case scenario? They'd say nothing at all. Honestly, I suppose I should consider myself lucky. For the record, I'm not pouring all of this out here to win anyone's sympathy or approval. I'm well aware that putting these thoughts out into the world is more likely to invite ridicule and cruelty than understanding. But that's fine. I just need to get these words out of my head before they gather fuel and ignite into something worse. I am lonely. Painfully, bone-deep lonely. I don't have real friends. My phone rarely rings, and when it does, it's usually a man, some guy from my past or a casual acquaintance, asking how I'm doing. They don't actually care. They just want to sleep with me. And honestly, it doesn't take much. 2 breasts and a warm body seem to be the only qualifications for their interest. Hell, some men would probably go for a watermelon if it didn't talk back. These words I'm typing, they feel empty. Dead even. When I started writing this, I meant to talk about my boyfriend. I'm crazy about him, irrationally, overwhelmingly in love with him. It's ridiculous how much space he takes up in my mind. He lives about an hour and a half away, in another state, so it's a long-distance thing. And I'm ruining it. My insecurities, my sadness, they're killing what we have. I can't stop overthinking every little thing. If his tone changes or he seems distant, I spiral. I obsess over the idea that he's texting someone else, chatting with other women. Maybe even women he's dated before. We're supposed to be exclusive, but he's cheated on me before. I know that much for sure, even though he denies it. I've found proof. He's reached out to ex-girlfriends, asking them to talk to him. Once, I even caught him on Facebook dating. When I confronted him, he claimed his account was hacked. Of course it wasn't. I know better. And yet, I can't bring myself to leave. Deep down, I feel like I deserve this, like I'm paying for all the wrong I've done. Sometimes I wonder, does this ever get better? But I already know the answer. It depends entirely on me. Will I take the steps to change? Will I start the medication I've been avoiding? Will I finally walk away from the toxicity I keep clinging to? I have a habit of sabotaging myself. I flirt with my male coworkers, trying to stir up some kind of drama or attraction. Only one of them has ever turned me down. I've even considered reaching out to the husbands in my neighborhood, just to hurt the women here who've ignored me for the last 14 years. I've always struggled with friendships, especially with women. It's like I can't help but feel awkward around them. The one true best friend I had? We fell out after she betrayed me. She knew about the mess with my therapist, and told my ex everything. Then she went around airing everyone else's dirty laundry, calling anyone who'd listen. We never recovered from that. And family? I don't have any of them left either. That's by choice. I cut ties with everyone on my side of the family because they stood by the man who molested me. They still invite him to weddings, birthdays, and family gatherings, acting like nothing ever happened. I couldn't be part of that anymore. My aunt warned me I'd regret walking away, that I'd need them someday. Maybe I do need them, but I don't regret a thing. When I left my husband, I lost his family too. And recently, I cut off contact with my parents and their partners. They accused me of begging them for money online, something I never did and wouldn't have gotten from them anyway. Now it's just me and my kids. And some days, even they feel so far away.